Okay, welcome again. We are going to start the presentation, and this presentation is being recorded and will be posted to the counseling website in a few days so that if you need to go back and rewatch something or look at a slide, you'll be able to do that. So welcome again to 9th and 10th grade information night. My name again is Miss Fitzsimmons, and I have Miss Blunt here with me, and we're going to be presenting some of the information about 9th and 10th graders and what to expect in 10th grade year, junior year, all the way through graduation. So here are just some hints for during the presentation. We are going to have the chat feature, which some of you have probably already seen, and we're going to have counselors answering the questions. Please use the chat feature to type in questions about the current slide. And we're asking for that because you may ask a question that we're going to cover in a couple slides. So we want to keep it just on what the slide you're seeing, ask those questions so that way the counselors can answer and your question won't get lost. Keep in mind too that what you are writing in the chat, all of the other attendees can read. So if it's something that you don't want to be viewed by other people, maybe that's a question you can just email your student's counselor separately. We're also going to continue the Q&A at the end of the presentation to allow participants to ask any final questions. If you asked something and then you remembered something at the very end, we're going to be able to answer questions at that time. And then, like I said, presentations being recorded and will be posted on our website in a few days so you can go back and reference it. So brief overview of the counseling department. These are the different counselors and their caseload. So this is like Miss Chilson is going to service kids who are last names A through DAQ. Then we have Miss Johnson, who is also our head counselor and department chair. She's going to have last names DAR through HEL. I have last names HEM through MAR. Miss Blunt is MAS through SAH, and then Miss Jones is SAI through Z. We also have some other amazing support staff in the counseling office, and they are instrumental in helping us with our students, answering questions when they come in, making sure that they get to us, and we couldn't do it without them. You can also go onto the counseling webpage for more information about our department, and it's also going to have ways to get in touch with your student's counselor. So it's going to have all of our individual email addresses so you can reach out if you need something. These are just different ways that you can stay connected with Chattahoochee. So one of the big ways is to check Naviance, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the presentation. But that's going to, sometimes we send out emails that are specific to certain grade levels. So that's a good one to just kind of keep checking your email, and that a lot of times will go to students and to parents. You can also find us on Facebook and like our official page, the address, or you can see on the screen there. You can also follow us on Twitter. You can go to the Chattahoochee main website, and then from there, you can also find the counseling website. And then another fabulous resource we have is the dual enrollment Weebly, which Ms. Chilson has spent a lot of time putting together, and it has a lot of fabulous information about dual enrollment, what the process is like, deadlines, just everything that you or your student would want to know is on that Weebly. So that's another really great place to check out if your student is thinking, maybe I want to do dual enrollment. And we'll talk a little bit about that later in the presentation as well. So this is what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to cover something called Infinite Campus, which hopefully you all are familiar with. Then we're also going to go over graduation requirements, the scheduling timeline, graduation plans. We're going to talk about the difference between a numeric cumulative average and GPA. There's that dual enrollment. We're going to also briefly cover Hope and Zell Miller scholarships and grants. And then we're also going to talk about Naviance and all of the wonderful resources that are in that for you and your student. So let's jump right in. So Infinite Campus, this is our web-based home to school information resource where you as the parents can check in and see, okay, how is my student doing in their class? What's their progress report? Have they missed an assignment? Did they miss class today? This is sort of a great way that you can view the most up-to-date information on your students' classes, their attendance. You can also look at this Infinite Campus for an unofficial transcript. So if you need to download one for maybe you're going to have a new driver in your house and you need that for insurance, you can download an unofficial transcript from Infinite Campus. This is also where you're going to be able to see the 4.5, 9, and 13.5 week progress reports. So you'll be able to be seen at each of those times where your student stands in their class, so that if you have any questions about their grade or missing assignments, this is going to be a great place where you can view it in Infinite Campus and then reach out to their teacher if you have any questions. Infinite Campus is live. So what you see when you get a notification, or if you see something in the gradebook, that is live, that is what's going on. So that's another good thing to keep in mind. Students to log in, which your students should know how to do this, but just in case you need to remind them, their login is going to be their student ID, and then their password is their 8-digit birthday. So there are no slashes or dashes. It's just going to be their student ID and then their birthday, and they'll be able to get into Infinite Campus. You also have the ability to set up a parent account. If you haven't done that already, I would suggest you visit the email address that is, or not email, excuse me, the website that's on the screen. You can sign up there, and there's also more information. The parent account is, I think, a really good resource for parents because you can set up notifications that will let you know when your student has turned in an assignment, if something has been graded, if they are missing something, if they were marked absent from a class. So it can really help keep you in tune with what's going on with your student throughout the day. And you can set it up to have as many notifications as you would like, or to have it only be, I just want to know when my student has missed class. That could be the only notification you have. But Infinite Campus is a really great portal for parents to stay up to date and involved in what's going on in their students' classrooms.
Okay, this is Ms. Blunt. I am going to go over graduation requirements and a couple other pieces of information. Okay, so this is a very detailed chart. This might be one you either take a picture of your screen, or later on, like we said, we're recording this presentation, and we will also have a PDF downloaded of this presentation that you can access. So you can print it out from there as well. This is just a really detailed list of the 23 total credits needed to graduate. Every student graduating from Chattahoochee needs 4 credits from English. These are the specific ones that count for each of the 4 years. You will see that the further you get in high school, there typically are more options that fulfill each requirement. Math, I'm sure some of y'all have received some information from the math department. If your students are in the accelerated track, some of the math curriculum options are changing for next school year. This is coming down from the state of Georgia, the Department of Education. So you will see concepts and connections. That's going to be the new kind of ending of the course titles. So if you see, say, geometry, C&C, that just means concepts and connections. So you'll see with science, there's 4 credits also to graduate from high school. Again, specific subjects in 3 areas, and then the 4th science can be literally any science course not already taken. When we say 4th science, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be taken in the 4th year. It can be taken in the 3rd year, that kind of thing. It's just the one of the last option that, basically the box that we check off. There are some other approved courses that might count for 4th science for graduation, but they might not necessarily count for science for all college admissions. So there are some things that, families are expected to check with their colleges on. Social studies, there's 3 credits that are required for graduation. American Government Standard for 9th grade, that's a half a credit. Year of World History, Year of US History, and then a half a credit of economics. And then we've got the Career Tech, Fine Arts, World Language area. 3 total credits are needed for that. And any combination of the 3 are fine for high school graduation. However, if your student is aiming to go to a 4-year college when they graduate from high school, they need at least 2 years of the same world language. There are a couple exceptions, but generally that is the expectation. And then again, back to the left, all students need a half credit of health and a half credit of personal fitness. There are some courses and sports options that waive the personal fitness requirement. There's a link that it's available on our website, chatcougar.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom under, I think, important links. And then you will also be able to access this link electronically when the PDF is posted. And then, sorry, back to the right, electives. All students have to have 4 total credits of electives. It can be anything from rec games to weight training to an AP class that doesn't satisfy specific graduation requirements. So AP psychology, AP European history, things along those lines. I'm going to go through a little bit of the math track just because this is brand new information. So students on, say, the regular track, if your student is in algebra, concepts and connections, they'll go into geometry, advanced algebra, and then similar as I said before with English, the further you get in high school, typically the more options you have of courses that will satisfy graduation requirements. Whether a student goes into pre-calculus, AMDM, or a dual enrollment math, that typically depends on how they do in the prior year. So that's just kind of the standard track. The honors track, this is kind of with the expectation that students have completed algebra in 8th grade. They go into geometry, advanced algebra, pre-calculus, and then their senior year, they would be able to take calc, AP calc, either AB or BC, AP statistics, or apply for dual enrollment. And while these are not necessarily quote advanced curriculum, the students get the honors course title and the honors points because they are a year ahead in the track. So the geometry concepts and connections you're seeing listed in the honors track, that student would take in 9th grade. It's literally the same class the student would be sitting in 10th grade in the on-level track. The other option is we're calling it the honors track with acceleration. And the main difference is, of course, you'll see algebra, concepts and connections honors in 8th grade. Students will also take geometry, concepts and connections honors in 9th grade. And then the big split there is instead of taking advanced algebra, concepts and connections honors, there's a combined class. It is enhanced advanced algebra / AP pre-calc honors. So that's going to be a new class that's coming out next year. The College Board does have a new AP class, AP pre-calculus. Those students would be taking the AP pre-calc exam at the end of the school year, potentially earning college credit. So this is a way that students can accelerate from that track to be eligible to apply for Georgia Tech distance math or other dual enrollment options in 12th grade. This is just a visual for you to see how, sorry. This is a visual for you to see just how your students for your course plan would pan out. So just assume your student's going to be taking English all 4 years of high school, math and science. Even if a student is, a year or even 2 years ahead in math, we strongly encourage students to continue taking math through the end of high school. Many colleges like to see that as well. Most students are going to have a social studies course each year, but sometimes just depending on maybe the student chose not to take American government in 9th grade because they're taking another elective, that will just have to fit into their schedule later on in high school. So looking at this is a good way to help you and your student plan out where classes that they want to take will fit amongst the classes that they have to take. Okay. Like Ms. Fitzsimmons said before, the transcript is available on Infinite Campus. We strongly encourage all families and students to double check their transcript after every semester just to make sure credits are posted correctly, grades are posted correctly. It is the official record of every grade earned for high school credit. It does include any middle school classes that were earned for high school credit. The cumulative numeric average is, again, the average of all grades earned in high school classes since the beginning of when students started taking those classes. So some students might have high school classes listed from 7th grade, some might have them from 8th grade. So the cumulative numeric average on here is literally every single high school credit. So then, of course, the courses taken and credit earned. The transcript is what colleges will receive. So we definitely want you to double check transcripts, especially families who have, transferred into Fulton County, transferred into Chattahoochee. We want to make sure that if for some odd reason, your previous school didn't send a transcript to us, we just want to make sure all credits are awarded to students that they're supposed to have. The transcript is a permanent record. All grades earned, both passing and failing, are recorded. So say, for example, a student does not pass first semester of ninth grade, they pass second semester, they still have to go back and retake first semester. They would do that likely in summer school. So there would be a separate entry on the transcript for summer school for the following school year, or sorry, the following summer after that school year, there would be a separate line for first semester of ninth grade lit. That grade and credit will be posted. So the original grade earned and then the retaken grade earned, they are both on the transcript. And like we said, an unofficial copy is available to view and download. Two main reasons that a parent would want to download and maybe provide this to somebody. Like Ms. Fitzsimmons said, if your student needs to go get their driver's license, the Department of Driver Services requires proof of school enrollment. There is not a separate form that we have to fill out here. All you have to do is print your student's transcript from Infinite Campus. The DDS website says that they will accept an unofficial transcript. That is completely fine. And like Ms. Fitzsimmons said, the other reason that you commonly might need this is, if you, again, have a new driver in the household and you want to hopefully earn the, quote, good student discount with your insurance company for your student to be able to drive your car. This is another way that you could provide that information to them. Okay. Further information about understanding credits. Fulton County grading scale is listed at the top. Anything 90 or above is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, below a 70 is an F. Some people that might have, grown up in different areas or maybe even moved here. There's not a D range in Fulton County schools. There's not a D range for the state of Georgia. Some private schools, some systems outside of Georgia might have a D range, but we do not. So those are the 4 grades that you'll be able to see, or 4 grade ranges you would see on our transcript. Any student who passes an honors, advanced placement, or dual enrollment course, they earn an additional 7 honors points. So the grade you see on the transcript does include those honors points. As far as earning the credit, every single class at Chattahoochee is going to earn a half a credit, 0.5 per semester. The only exceptions are dual enrollment classes. The majority of those earn 1.0 credit per semester. An accelerated science program, ASP, that is the select few students that are chosen from the middle school to take advantage of this program. They earn 1.0 credit of biology honors in one semester in ninth grade and 1.0 credit of chemistry honors in the opposite semester in ninth grade. Our first semester ends in December. This past semester ended December 16th. It's typically around there each school year. Second semester ends in May. And this year, our last day of school is May 25th. Please, please, please keep these dates in mind. Each school year, the county puts out the calendar for each school year at least a year, if not 2 years ahead of time. We always have families that want to travel at the very end of the school year, or sorry, at the end of the semester, or maybe are even finishing up summer travel, and then they, come to school late in August. We never, ever, ever want our students to be missing our last week exams or enrolling, coming to school, 3 or 4 days late. So please, please, please try to plan your family trips around those days. If your student fails a class, more than likely they're going to have to make it up. A couple options of how to do that, depending on which class it was and depending on where they are on graduation trajectory, they might be able to put the class in their schedule the following school year. Most students make up their credits in summer school. Face-to-face is typically our recommendation, just because there is face-to-face instruction. Summer school face-to-face is always offered at one of the 3 high schools in our cluster. So that's us, Chattahoochee, or Johns Creek, or Northview. So it rotates between those 3 schools. Fulton Virtual School also offers summer classes, and Georgia Virtual also offers summer classes. The The issue with Georgia Virtual is no Georgia Virtual summer classes are free. Face-to-face summer school and Fulton virtual classes are free in the summer if the student has previously attempted the class. Credit recovery is an option for making up a class. It is only available for students during the school year, so it cannot be done during the summer. The issue with credit recovery is that it is not accepted by the NCAA. NCAA is the governing body for essentially college sports. So if your student hopes to or intends on playing a sport for a college, so not a rec league, not a club team while they're in college, actually playing a sport for a college, credit recovery for those certain classes are not accepted. So we do not recommend that for potential future athletes. And again, like I said before, if a student fails a class and retakes it, the new grade does not replace the failing grade. Grades for every single attempted class are shown on their transcript. In the bottom left, you'll see the promotion requirements. So for families who have current ninth graders, they must have 5.0 credits at the end of July in order to be listed in 10th grade in August of 23. Students that are in 10th grade currently, hoping to be in 11th grade next year, they have to have 11.0 credits when school starts in August as well. So those promotion requirements are very important to consider. We always encourage families to, just double check their students, earn credits at the end of each semester, make sure we're on track for graduation. If for some reason we're off track, we seem to be missing credits, then we'd be looking at potentially going to summer school. And then ultimately going into 12th grade, 17 credits are required to be listed in 12th grade, and then 23 total credits are required to graduate. A note about athletes and credits. So per GHSA, that's Georgia High School Association, that's the governing body of Georgia public schools and private schools athletics. So students must be on track for promotion based on the box to your left, and they must have passed 5 out of the 6 classes, meaning they earned 2.5 credits in the term prior to the sport to meet eligibility. So for example, a student that plays baseball in the spring, they're in 10th grade. They have to have the minimum credits shown, and they must have passed 5 out of 6 classes. So that if a student fails 2 classes in the fall and they play a spring sport, no matter how many total credits they have, they are automatically ineligible. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our scheduling process for the upcoming school year. If your student intends on taking a Fulton virtual or a Georgia virtual class during the 23-24 school year, this is not during the summer, they are able to register for the classes now. They can choose up to 3 classes per semester. There is an online contract available on our scheduling website at the bottom. The online contracts must be turned into the counseling office by February 3rd at 3:30 p.m. Both fall and spring courses for the 23-24 school year must be listed on the contract. You can, like I said, download the contract from the website, or you can always pick up a hard copy in the counseling office. We're not actually positive that Fulton Virtual, the electronic registration is open right now, but we at least need your student's contract. We can always administratively register them if the portal is not available for you to do the registration now. Keep in mind your student's strengths when you're choosing online classes. If a student struggles in math, please don't register them for an online math class. If they're really strong in English, that might be a way to go. The next big upcoming date is February 1st. It is our dual enrollment information presentation. Ms. Chilson will be doing that. It will be at 5:30 p.m. again, virtually on Teams, just like this. The link to join the virtual meeting will be included in a number of email blasts ahead of time. Ms. Chilson will be sending those out. The meeting will be recorded and posted on our dual enrollment Weebly website within a couple of days. Students must complete all the dual enrollment steps by March 31st, 2023. We have this listed at Naviance. We've actually changed that. So there's an interest form available on the website. Students must complete that first. Once the student completes the interest form, Ms. Chilson will add them to a Teams account, and then all the steps in Teams are what the student must complete by by March 31st. That is a county deadline. They set that, we do not. So if a student starts completing these steps or fills out the interest form or whatever after the 31st of March, unfortunately, it's a no-go for the fall. In mid-February, starting in just a couple weeks, the counselors will meet individually with every single 9th through 11th grader, and this will be done through their English classes. We'll be reviewing their course recommendations for next year, going over making sure their course load for next year, the combination of all their courses seems manageable, making sure based on their grades from their certain classes this year and their projected classes for next year, making sure they meet district placement guidelines. So the English classes will be coming to the Media Center one day in the next couple weeks. When we get closer to that time, your student's teacher will be telling them, hey, this is the day we're going to go to the Media Center. So the counselors will have 2 weeks where we'll be doing this. No appointment is needed. If for some reason a student is not taking an English class this year, some students who did 9th grade English and 8th grade might have taken a year off of English. That is fine. We will be keeping lists of all of our 9th and 10th graders and anyone who may not be in English class this year, or maybe in an online English class. We will make time to meet with them as well. In late February, we will have 10-minute, these are going to be quick meetings. They're going to be 10 minutes long, scheduling meetings available for students or parents to discuss any scheduling questions for the next school year. The link to be able to book those meetings with us will be available in early February. And then mid to late March, and this will kind of depend on when Fulton Virtual and Georgia Virtual decide on their opening dates, essentially. Registration will open. There is no contract needed for any online classes taken in the summer. So online classes taken during the school year definitely need an online contract. Online classes taken in the summer, no contract needed. We will be sending a number of email blasts once summer registration info is available. Students will register online, and then the counselors will be checking and approving registrations, a couple times a week. If your student registers for a class and is not immediately approved, please do not worry. We will be taking care of it. We just ask for your patience because we aren't always able to get into the portal to approve students immediately. So we will be checking it a couple times a week. Okay, this is a typical 10th grade schedule. So taking, the information from the chart we shared before of, this is kind of how schedules kind of fall out every year. 10th grader is typically going to be taking 10th grade English, on level or honors, geometry concepts and connections, potentially the advanced algebra concepts and connections honors if they're on that honors track. Typically either environmental science or chemistry. Depending on where they are in math, they could also be in honors chemistry. World history is the standard 10th grade social studies class. AP is also available. Also a credit of either a world language, career tech, or fine arts class, and then maybe a general elective. This is not necessarily how every single 10th grade student's schedule is going to fall out. The general elective at the bottom, it could be that the student chooses to take a world language class and a career tech class, or a world language class, and they also want to take orchestra. But this is just typically how it would pan out. Okay, and then typical 11th grade schedule, 11th grade lit. And again, like I said before, the further we get in high school, the more class options there are. So there's on level 11th grade English, there's honors, and then there's also AP Lang. For math, we'd likely be looking at advanced algebra, concepts and connections, or on the honors track, it would be pre-calculus. Science options, typically going to be earth systems, could be physics or another science though. US history, there's also, AP US history. Some students choose to start dual enrollment in 11th grade as well. World language, again, career tech, fine arts elective, that would be one of the options, and then another elective. Okay, these are some important things to consider when choosing courses. Students cannot replace a graduation requirement with a non-required course if they do not plan ahead. So the example here is if a rising 11th grader wants to make room in their schedule for AP Psychology next year, while also taking World Language and Band, they would need to take one of their academic classes ahead of time in the summer prior to the year the course is normally taken. Keep in mind, some electives in high demand might not be guaranteed. We always have a number of students that want to make room for AP Psychology, AP European History, maybe an extra science class. But we do not, if a student comes to us in 11th grade and they say, oh, I want to drop US History and take AP Psychology, I'll just take US History next year. We unfortunately are not able to permit that. They must take the US History, they did not plan ahead. You also cannot skip the grade level sequence. So again, the social studies example, we don't allow students to take US history before they take world history. You got to go in the order that the county arranges it. And then we also want students to do their research. If there's any, specific colleges that a student or family is considering, is there certain courses that they need to take for that college? So some schools really want a credit of fine arts. I know a lot of the University of California system schools, they absolutely require full credit of fine arts. So that's just something to keep in mind. Some schools might like to see a third year or even more of a world language. Some schools might require chemistry specifically, even though that's not a graduation requirement from Fulton County. So these are important things for y'all to consider. So a common question that students and parents ask is, oh, should I take honors? Should I take AP? Should I take dual enrollment? Why would I take one of those versus when I could just take an on-level class? This is a really individual decision and it's unique to each student. There's not a universal answer. Um, we don't want students to take a class because their friend says, oh yeah, that was easy for me. Well, it might not be easy for you. Your area of strength might be science. Their area of strength might be English. We don't want students to take classes because, they've, peer pressure or they've quote heard that it's good. We think it's good for students to challenge themselves in their areas of strength and their areas of interest. Those two kind of qualifications, those are automatically going to make a class seem easier to a student because they're going to be enjoying it, and also because they're just naturally strong in that area. We also encourage a gradual increase in rigor. So, if a student has the ultimate goal of taking AP Lang in 11th grade, then it is completely possible to get there, even if they're in on-level 9th grade English. We would want them to go from 9th grade English on level to 10th grade Lit honors to AP Lang. We also want to make sure that we're not increasing so much. We're not, if a student is taking one AP class in 9th grade and they want to take 4 in 10th grade, more than likely the answer is going to be a no from all the counselors. That's just not a feasible increase. And like I said about the progression, and in certain, the subjects that offer honors options, we do recommend the progression of on level to honors to AP or dual enrollment. Those subjects would be English and science, particularly. All of those are going to have an on level and then an honors and then an AP option for the most part. Social studies in Fulton County, there are no honors social studies classes anywhere in the county. So for students that are in American government right now and doing really well and want to take AP World History next year, that is completely fine. There's not that honors medium middle point for them. And many students take a mix of on-level, honors, AP, and dual enrollment classes. There's not a magic formula that's going to get a certain student into a college. There's not a magic formula that's going to be, oh, this is going to be the special thing that gives them this perfect GPA or anything along those lines. We want students to be balanced. We don't want them to overload too much. So keeping the previous comments in mind, we want students to consider their overall course load. Think about what they're taking now. If their load is too light, if they have a lot of free time, if they don't have a lot of homework to do, then maybe we can increase a little bit next year. Add an honors class, maybe add an AP class. If the load is too heavy, if they are staying up way too late, if they're doing hours and hours and hours a night of homework, maybe we need to come down a little bit next year. We want students to think of their life outside of school. Where's their time being pulled from? Are they involved in a lot of sports, a lot of clubs? If they play, a sport each season and they're involved in a couple clubs, of course, that's going to be, a little bit less time for, really difficult classes. If they're doing a lot of volunteering work, or they're working a part-time job, or maybe they have family responsibilities. Maybe they're responsible for, cooking dinner for their family every night, or the parents work late, so they are responsible for taking care of their younger siblings and making sure they get fed and bathed and in bed at night. I mean, those things can also take away from their time. So really, it's just balancing time is really important. Sleep is so much more important than kids and maybe even parents realize. Teenagers, the typical recommendation is about 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Of course, we know realistically 10 hours a night probably isn't going to happen. But when I start hearing that kids are going to bed at 1 and 2 or even later in the morning, they have absolutely taken on too much. So we just want students to make sure what they are planning for their next school year is achievable for them. Balance, balance, balance is most important. We want students to challenge themselves, but we do not want to compromise your stress level, your mental health, your physical health, your GPA, or anything along those lines.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Blunt. This is Miss Fitzsimmons again. I'm going to talk a little bit now about dual enrollment. And remember, on February 1st, Miss Chilson is going to go into a lot more detail on that dual enrollment night, but we wanted to just give you a quick overview. So if your student, like I had said at the beginning, is interested in maybe wanting to learn more about dual enrollment, maybe this is something I want to do, I really encourage them and you to go to our Weebly site. It really has all of the information broken down nicely. It has it based on what college you would want to do. It just really has a lot of good information, and some of your questions that you may have, you probably could find the answers to on the Weebly. So dual enrollment is going to be for rising 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students. They're eligible to take the college courses for free at local colleges. The colleges that we typically see are Gwinnett Tech, Georgia State, and Georgia Tech. Now, one caveat with rising 10th graders is they are only eligible to take CTAE. So those are the career tech classes at Gwinnett Tech. And they have to have a minimum SAT or ACT score required if they want to do any kind of academic class. So let's say your rising 10th grader wants to do world history at Gwinnett Tech. They have to meet certain criteria to be able to participate in the dual enrollment versus an 11th grader who says they want to do US history through dual enrollment. They still are going to have to meet requirements, but it is not going to be as many as if you have a rising 10th grader. So that's another thing to just keep in mind when you're talking with your student about, is dual enrollment the right choice and the right move for us in this moment? Auburn First is our newest dual enrollment program for Fulton County students. So this is a little different. Students have to pay for their application fee, enrollment fee, tuition, and textbooks. So whereas the other options were free, where they didn't have to cover that, Auburn First, the student does have to cover that. If a student qualifies for free or reduced lunch, some of those fees may be waived. The student has to complete 6 hours of approved classes, and they have to have a 3.0 or higher GPA by August 15th of their 12th grade year. And if they meet those criteria, then they will qualify for an automatic admission to Auburn. So that's something that if maybe Auburn in your family that's where everyone goes and that's where you want your student to go, then potentially Auburn First might be something to look into. Because it is great that at the end, if the student has hit those benchmarks, that they can get the automatic admission to Auburn. We cannot say this enough. Please watch the dual enrollment presentation on the Weebly above and complete the dual enrollment interest form to indicate the school you want to attend. So if you're thinking you want to do Georgia State, if you're thinking you want to do Gwinnett Tech, it's really important to do that interest form so that Mrs. Chilson and your other counselors can know what your student is thinking so that we can make sure they hit all of the deadlines and the requirements, because they can vary a little bit from the schools. If you plan to take any courses at a college next school year, please check the requirements on appropriate college website. It's just really important to make sure that what you are wanting to take, you are meeting those admissions requirements. Something to keep in mind too is the students who are the most successful taking dual enrollment classes, they're going to be highly motivated. They're self-starters, right? Maybe they don't need mom and dad to constantly be saying, have you done your homework? What's due next, right? They're already going to be doing that. They're going to be very organized. And it's really important that a student who is in the past been dependent on maybe doing credit recovery or having to, have some extra help to pass classes, they may not, dual enrollment might not be the right fit. And just because maybe it's not the right fit in 11th grade year, by the time we get to be a senior and we've matured a little bit, we've figured out our study habits even more, maybe then dual enrollment is going to be a good thing to look at for senior year. So it's just, your student the best, and you can really have those conversations with them and really decide, is this something that is good for them? Or are we just doing this because we think we should? Okay. Another thing to remember, parents, dual enrollment students are considered college students and are subject to FERPA. So what that means is college professors will not talk with parents. So it's not like here, if you're having a question about grades and you can reach out to your student's teacher, or you can reach out to the counselor and ask, and we will communicate with you. It is not the case when you have a dual enrollment student, because they are considered true college students, even if you're in 11th grade and you're still, considered a minor. It doesn't matter. So that's something also to keep in mind of, if maybe you have your student who sometimes needs you to, to help a little bit, to maybe talk with teachers, help them. That's not going to be something that you'll be able to do with dual enrollment. Dual enrollment placeholders are not going to be added to the academic planner. So that's something that us counselors and teachers are using to see what classes we're going to take to make sure that all of graduation requirements are met. We are not going to put in that you're doing a dual enrollment class until you've completed the contract and you have applied to the college. So once you have done both of those steps, then your counselor can move forward with filling in the academic planner. But until then, there's going to be no dual enrollment in your academic planner. This is really important. I don't know if you want to take a picture of this. If you are thinking of doing dual enrollment, the deadline to apply for fall of next year, so 23, is March 31st, 2023, like Ms. Blunt had said. This is a county deadline. If they go past it, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to help your student. So it is really important to make sure that all of the deadlines are met throughout the entire dual enrollment process. Okay, now let's talk about money and Hope Scholarship. So I'm sure some of you are already familiar, maybe from one of your other students, kids, or maybe just because you've lived in Georgia and you've heard about it. So Hope and Zell Miller, this is for eligible students to receive financial assistance covering tuition and approved fees. So here are the qualifications for both of these scholarships. You have to meet citizenship requirements. You have to be a legal resident of Georgia. You have to be graduating from an eligible high school. Male students must be registered for the selective service to receive these federal funds. And there is the website, so that if you want to go out and see more about what that is and learn more, you can go and explore the website. Then they also need to have 4 credits of rigor. So that can mean they're 1 credit of advanced algebra, which every student has to take advanced algebra. So that is 1 credit of rigor. They're 1 credit of advanced math decision making, for example, that they take in senior year. That would be a credit of rigor. When your student takes physics, that would be 1 credit right there. And then you can also get credit of Spanish, like if you take Spanish 2, that's going to meet the requirements for rigor for Hope. So we have made it so that by the time students get to their senior year, they will have had their 4 credits of rigor, so that won't be anything that's ever going to prevent them from getting Hope or Zell. Most students. Okay, how you apply. So you can either complete the free application for federal student aid or FAFSA, which can definitely be a process. And we have at the beginning of the year, we have a financial aid night, and our outside contractor who comes in and sort of talks about all of this, she's actually from the Georgia Student Finance Commission, who is in charge of Hope and calculating GPAs. She goes over FAFSA. So that's a really good one in, 11th grade or senior year to tune into the financial aid night at the beginning of the year. She goes over all of the intricacies of FAFSA. And another one that is not as popular, but this is how you can also apply, is to complete the Georgia Student Financial Aid application on georgiafutures.org. Georgia Futures is also where you're going to be able to go to check your Hope GPA, to, if you want to make sure that one of your classes is going to be rigor, then you can check on Georgia Futures. So that's a really great resource as well. Please note, this is so important. GPAs are not rounded up. So let's say your student ends with a 2.999 and a 3.0 is required for the Hope GPA. It is not going to be rounded up. Your student is going to stay at that 2.999. So it's really important that you and your student understand that what you see is what you get in that regard. Also, missing or incorrect social security numbers and nicknames are going to delay the Hope funds. So you're going to want to make sure that you have put in your social security number the correct way, and that the name that is associated with FAFSA is not a nickname. It's going to be your legal name, because that will just help to not delay getting that Hope. And like I said, again, on the bottom, if you want to go to the Georgia Student Finance Commission page, which is listed on the bottom, that's a great resource. Okay, so Hope and Zell are a little different in terms of what you have to earn in order to get those scholarships. So for Hope, you have to have a 3.0 Hope GPA in high school. So again, 2.999 is not a 3.0. The only thing that is 3.0 is 3.0 or above. The Hope Award amounts varies for each school. So it's going to be a percentage of the standard tuition, and it changes from year to year. And that's, again, where you can go onto Georgia Futures to be able to see, okay, if I qualify and I get Hope, what is that actually going to cover? And again, mandatory fees are covered. Institutional fees, though, are going to be paid by the student or the family. Hope Scholarship recipients must maintain a 3.0 GPA throughout college at various checkpoints. Those checkpoints tend to be 30 credit hours, 60 credit hours, and 90 credit hours, as well as every 2 semesters. Okay, so that's just an important thing to keep in mind. Even if you have a 3.0 going into college, and then let's say, after your first semester, you dip down below the 3.0, then you may lose the Hope, but you can always get it back. But you can reapply once. So just kind of something for you to keep in mind and for your student to keep in mind. Now, Zell is a little different. Zell is, so one of the first 2 bullets. One, if you graduate as the valedictorian or salutatorian, you automatically get Zell Miller. If you're not the Val or the Sal, but you have earned a 3.7 Hope GPA in high school, again, 3.699 is not rounded up, and your student has also earned a combined score of 1200 on the SAT or a score of 26 on the ACT. So if they have gotten that Hope 3.7 GPA and they have earned those scores, then they will be able to, they'll qualify for Zell Miller. Zell Miller is going to cover 100% of the standard tuition charges and the fees. So whereas Hope Scholarship is a percentage, Zell Miller is 100% tuition is going to be covered. Zell Miller scholarship recipients must maintain a 3.3 GPA throughout college at those various checkpoints that I'd mentioned previously. Students who drop below the 3.3 can still be eligible for HOPE if they maintain a 3.0. Now, there's also something called the Hope and Zell-Miller Grant. This is for students who are maybe interested in going to technical college and, maybe want to go right into the automotive industry or, early childhood. They want to maybe go into HVAC, right? Someone who is going to be going more in the technical side. No minimum GPA is required in high school for a student to get the Hope or Zell-Miller Grant. And the nice thing about this too is full-time enrollment is not required either to be able to take advantage of this program. So the difference between the HOPE grant and the Zell-Miller grant. HOPE grant, again, it's only going to cover a portion of the student's tuition, and the recipient must maintain a 2.0 GPA at those certain checkpoints. The Zell-Miller grant will cover the standard tuition rate, so 100% of the standard tuition rate for the school and the number of hours enrolled. They must maintain a 3.5 GPA at certain checkpoints to maintain the eligibility to keep getting that Zell-Miller grant. On the side here, you can see these are just a list of some of examples of programs that would, if your student wanted to pursue, they would be able to do the HOPE and Zell-Miller grant for those career or majors. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about numeric average versus GPA. So in Fulton County, so on your student's transcript, you are going to see the cumulative numeric average. We do it on a 100-point scale. So that is, if your student on their transcript, you see that their weighted GPA says 89.765, that's out of the 100-point scale. All grades are included. So that includes middle school classes they took in middle school to earn high school credit, academic core classes, as well as electives. So any grade that your student has earned is going to go into that cumulative numeric average. It's also going to be weighted. So that's where if your student has taken honors, AP, or a dual enrollment, and they've been given those 7 extra points, those are going to stay in that weighted cumulative numeric average on the transcript. Those are calculated by Fulton County, and they're going to be posted on the transcript that you can download from Infinite Campus. Now, HOPE GPA is a little bit different. They're on a 4-point scale, and it's about quality points. So an A is going to be 4 quality points, a B will be 3, a C is 2, and then if your student has an F, it will be 0 quality points. So obviously, the more A's you have, the higher your HOPE GPA is going to be. The more C's you have, a little bit lower, right? So it's about finding that balance. And that's why choosing courses that your student can really challenge themselves, but still be successful and earn more of those A's and B's is going to help them to not have to worry as much about, am I going to qualify for HOPE? Academic core courses are what are included in HOPE. So that's going to be your English, math, science, social studies, world language, taken in high school, as well as some academic electives. So like for here, that would be debate, yearbook, sociology, newspaper, sports and American society. Those are going to be examples of academic electives. And then some of the career tech classes are going to be non-entry level, so not the first class in the pathway. So it's going to be Essentials of Healthcare, AP Comp Sci A, or AP Comp Sci Principles. So those classes are going to be included in the calculation for HOPE. Now with HOPE, it is unweighted, meaning that if your student has taken an AP class and they got those 7 points, HOPE is going to remove those 7 points before they convert it to the 4.0 scale. But if it is an AP or a dual enrollment course, they will add an additional 0.5 quality points. So instead of just having a 3, they would have a 3.5, and it will only go up to a 4.0. So let's say your student was in an AP and dual enrollment course. When those 7 honors points were removed, they still had an A. They're not going to get 4.5. They're just going to get the 4.0. HOPE GPA is calculated by the Georgia Student Finance Commission at the end of high school. And again, you can go onto georgiafutures.org and you and or your student can pull that up and be able to see what their hope GPA is and where they stand so that you know and there are no surprises. Okay, so we kind of just talked a little bit about unweighted versus weighted. Fulton County transcripts, again, are going to reflect your weighted grades. So that means honors points are included in the grades you see. So if you have taken an honors, an AP, or a dual enrollment class, and it says 97 on your transcript, that includes those 7 points. So if you took those 7 points away, you would have a 90, so you would still have that A. Colleges don't necessarily remove honors points from grades before they calculate the student's GPA for admission. Each college has their own policy and their own way of calculating GPAs for admission. So some may remove honors points, some may not. It really just kind of depends on how that particular college or university and their admission process. So you might be asking, okay, well, how do I know if my student should take honors, if they should take AP or dual enrollment? How do I decide? So there are many reasons that a student would decide to take one of those classes. One might be, they want to be more prepared for more difficult classes in the future or in college, right? Maybe they kind of want to dip their toe in the AP pool and see what it's all about. It might also be they want to challenge themselves, kind of like Miss Blunt had said. Maybe their course load has been really light this year and they're kind of bored. Well, it might be time to let's try an honors then. Or if you're in honors, let's try AP. Let's see if we can do it. Let's challenge ourselves, especially if the subject is an area where they are really interested in it or they have strength. If your student is really good in English and has been in honors, well, it might, maybe 11th grade year, we try AP Lang. Or if the student is really good in science, well, then maybe we do chemistry so we can do an AP science class. So it's really important to pay attention to where your student's strength and interest lies, because that is going to make those classes, when they get a little more hard and a little more challenging, it's going to make it easier for your student to get through them and to not feel defeated if they're hitting a rough patch. Another reason is if they want to be able to enter the first year of college with credits already earned. So this isn't for honors classes. This is going to be just for AP and dual enrollment. But a lot of students who do dual enrollment classes or AP and they've earned those credits, when they enter into college, they're already kind of a little bit ahead of their counterparts. They've already earned credits. So that can just kind of help with the cost of college, which can be, something that a lot of families have to think about. So those are just some of the reasons why, a student may choose to take an honors, an AP, or a dual enrollment class. Okay, so I know I had said we would talk about Naviance. So Naviance is going to be found in ClassLink. Your student can log in and can show you. Naviance is a great college and career searching and planning program. So this is something that your student can go in and they can take self-discovery. So they can do assessments. They can take little assessments to figure out, okay, what is it that might be a good career fit for me? Or what are some things that I'm interested in? And maybe I didn't know that I had a propensity towards something in, the arts field or in the science field. So it's just a way for students to kind of help sort of start thinking about, okay, what could I maybe want to do in college or as a career? And then there are also other things where a student can look at different careers. There's a wonderful thing in Naviance under the career tab, and it's called Road Trip Nation. And students can, let's say your student already kind of has an idea of what they may want to do for a career. They can find that career on Road Trip Nation and they can hear from different people who are actually in the industry talking about their job, talking about their educational journey, what a typical day is like for them. So that's a great thing for your student to see, okay, I think I want to be an artist, but let me hear from an artist about what it's really like. So that's a wonderful thing for them to just kind of explore and see what are some different career options out there. And then colleges is one that they're really going to use in their senior year, but you can start doing it in your junior year. To just kind of start looking to see, okay, do I want to be in a big college? Do I want to be in a small college? Am I looking to go to an HBCU? Do I want to go to a college that's only women? There's lots of different filters that you can kind of play around with to see, okay, what is a college that's going to be a good fit for me? And once I find that, what are the admission requirements? What do I need to make sure I've taken and I've done so that I will be a competitive applicant? Grade specific messages are going to be displayed on the welcome screen, like you can see on the screen right now. So that's going to be, 11th graders are going to be assigned different bridge build tasks than, say, a 9th grader. So when they log in, they're going to be able to see the different things that have been assigned to them. And this is also where, when Miss Chilson is sending out information about dual enrollment, or sometimes other counselors use Naviance as a way to just get out an email to a large portion of students and parents, this is where they will go to check that email in their inbox. And then all required dual enrollment tasks, again, they're not going to be completed in Naviance. It's going to be, actually, we're changing it this year a little bit. They're going to be doing the interest form, and then they will be assigned teams by Mrs. Chilson, and that's where they will complete their different tasks that she has assigned to them. You can also, again, keep going back to this Weebly that we have for more information that will just kind of talk you through everything that's going to be needed for dual enrollment. It's a really, really great resource. She did a great job on it. Okay, so we're sort of at the end of our presentation, but this is just a little bit more, if you want a little more information on some of the things we talked about today, these are some links to previously recorded presentations on these topics. So if you want to know more about GPA, you can go to that link. If you want to know even more about the Hope and Zell, you can go and watch that. College Search, Career. And then the last one was just a Q&A we had where students and parents logged on and just said, okay, this is a question I have, can you answer it? So there's just sort of a variety of questions and answers from there. So those are some great links that you can go to if you just sort of still have a couple questions and you like to watch presentations to be able to pause and listen. Those are some great places that you can go.
This is Miss Blunt. Just want to tag in here. So these links, when we download this presentation and then post the PDF of it to our website, along with the link of the video that we'll post on YouTube, and then also share that link. So these 5 links, if you go on the counseling website, so you go to Chat Cougar, CHATT Cougar.com. At the top, hover over students and families, and then click on counseling. And then on that next page, there's a link on the left, counseling presentations. All 5 of these links are posted there as well. So if you happen to want to watch them before we get this downloaded and then posted on the counseling website within a couple days, you're welcome to do that as well. And just a reminder, I know both me and Ms. Fitzsimmons said this on a couple of the slides that we went over. All dual enrollment tasks will be through Teams this year. We will edit those 2 slides before we post it on the counseling website. We just didn't catch that before we did this presentation. But yes, so Naviance is not used for dual enrollment anymore. It is used for some tasks and college searching and sending transcripts and all that kind of stuff that Ms. Fitzsimmons just described. But Teams is where all the dual enrollment tasks are going to be, and the starting point is going to be the dual enrollment Weebly, where students must do the interest form first.
Okay. Okay, so this is where, if you have any questions, we can go ahead and answer those in the chat. You can go ahead and put them in the chat and we will answer them for you. And if you don't have any questions, then you are free to log off and go enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for coming and listening to us. We know this is a lot of information, so that's part of why we record it, to be able to put it onto our website so you can go back and look at it, and pause the slide if you need to, go back and listen if you need to, because we recognize this is a lot of information. And your counselors are always, if you do have any questions, that's why we're here too. So, feel free to reach out to us and we will help you in any way that we can. Okay, so I think in the interest of time to not, to make sure that we can get every question answered and we don't have to worry about missing a question. So it looks like one question I see is, does digital pathway ensure elective credits are covered? So if your student does the digital pathway, and I'm assuming we're meaning like the Intro to Digital Tech, AP Computer Science Principles, and AP Computer Science A, that will either ensure that the credits are covered from the career tech column, where you need 3 credits of either career tech, fine arts, or world language. Let's say your student also does a language though, then those credits would carry over into electives. So it can kind of, that the pathways can go in 2 places. Okay, so it is looking like the questions are kind of not rolling in as much. So I think what we'll do is, if your student has any questions, we can talk with them when we meet with each of your students in like mid-February. So in a few weeks, when we're going to be talking about course recommendations, classes, we can sort of answer questions at that time. And then if there are still questions that you as parents have, you can schedule that quick 10-minute meeting with your counselor in late February. All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you again so much for coming and joining us. This has been a this has been a great presentation. You guys have been wonderful, and thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your night.